From the heart of Hawkeye Nation comes the show that dissects the plays, debates the calls, and celebrates the victories. This isn't just a podcast. This is your unfiltered access to the mind of two diehard fans. They live and breathe black and gold, and they're here to give you the honest, raw takes you won't find anywhere else. Get ready for deep dive analysis, passionate debate, and a unique perspective on the team you love. This is Punting is Winning with JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye sports fans, to another episode of Punting is Winning, your all Iowa podcast. We are your hosts, Keith and JD. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026.
All good things. Everything that's happened in the last week, all good things. I'm excited and I'm happy.
Yeah, I am too. We'll touch on that here shortly. First of all, let's cover the question of the week last week, which was predict the Iowa bowl game score and outcome. I think, we've come out on that show last week and said that what we thought the score would be. I think you said, what did you say, 31-24?
Iowa.
And I said 28-16 Iowa. Both, we got the winner right. You were closer on the score. I'd say that's, it probably, 34-27 really wasn't even that close. It didn't feel like Iowa was ever really in trouble.
Yeah. I think they always came to keep them at a distance.
They score. Well, okay, we'll score.
We'll go down and we'll just score too.
And it was nice that the offense was in a position to be able to just say, you know what, we're going to win this game.
Yeah. It was nice to see them put up a lot of points.
Yep. We'll talk about that. Let's catch the question of the week this week. Do you want to go through that or you want me to?
Let me have to go back to my notes here. Hang on a second.
I can touch it if you want me to.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Question of the week this week is, when all the bowl games and all the games are said and done, where do you think Iowa will finish in the top 25 ranking in football?
See, they were 23rd, right?
Yes.
Last week. And they had a big win over a 14th rated team. I'm going to go with 18th.
I was going to say 17th, and I was going to say Vandy probably drops to 18th.
So I think Vandy will drop from 14th to 19th.
Well,
so we'll be,
and it depends on the SEC bias that comes into play there too. As to, they just didn't want to be there. They had a lot of opt-outs. Well, they didn't. They had one. Yeah. And clearly, I don't care. You can say I'm stupid. You can say whatever you want. I feel like even had that tight end played, I think the best tight end that was on the field that day was on Iowa's side.
Well, yeah, the stats will play that out. I mean, that's bear that out. It's just that's the way it is. I mean, Iowa's a tight end team anyway. That's why they're called tight end U. Mm-hmm. They usually put somebody out there that's got skills, and we're excited that we have the potential to have him for 3 more years.
Yeah, I doubt he'll stay for 3 years. I think he'll go pro if he keeps up what he's doing right now. But we'll cover that here shortly. Let's jump into some. Let's start off with some basketball, and we'll dedicate a lot of more time at the end of this show to the football and the bowl game coverage and the landscape of college football and transfer portal. But let's start with the men's team. Had a big win on
Saturday night.
Is it Saturday? Yeah.
Yep.
Against UCLA.
Yep. Bennett Stirtz led Iowa with 27 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Iowa is now 12-2, 2-1 in the Big Ten, and UCLA is 10-4, 2-1 in the Big Ten. That was their first loss. Iowa outshot them 47-45 from the field goal range, and 3-point range. There were 31% Iowa to 21%. Iowa was 8 of 26. UCLA was 21%, 3 of 14. Free throws, 22 of 26 for 85% for Iowa, and 8 of 12 for 67% for UCLA. Iowa out rebounded UCLA 30-24. I thought when we talk about this game, I thought really early on, Iowa's defense was just absolutely stifling. I think UCLA was taken aback by how well Iowa played defense. They weren't expecting. They'd probably heard in the past, Iowa doesn't play defense. Well, it's new coach, new era, new everything. And even though they've been told that Iowa plays good defense this year, I don't think they really believed it. And then they lived it, and then now they're believers. You got to tip your hat to Alvaro Figueres for coming off the bench, hitting 3. He was 3 for 3 and 3-point line there early, kind of helped Iowa get ahead quite a bit so that they could just kind of relax a little bit. I don't think relax, but it did seem like in the second half, especially the first 10 minutes of the second half, Iowa's defense really it took a step back from intensity. It just didn't seem like it was the same as it was early. Now I realize kids get tired and defense is a tiring thing to do, but it just didn't seem like it was as intense. Now, if they could put 40 minutes together of the type of defense they played in the first 15 minutes of the game and put that through to a 40-minute game, now you're talking about a team that could compete for, at least a Big Ten title. Now, I'm not this year, maybe. There's a lot of Michigan and Purdue are
head shoulders above the rest.
They're a talent level ahead of everybody.
And
so
let's don't discount Nebraska either.
Nebraska. Yeah, they did beat Michigan State at home. That's a tall order beating Michigan State. But
I want to interject a little bit on that game. I did find out that Cam Mannion was fighting an illness, so that doesn't help, especially when you're only playing 8 guys. So, and I felt like there was some very ticky-tack fouls called, especially on Bennett Stirtz. A guy of his caliber who's an All-American. I hate to use the phrase should get a favorable whistle. He certainly didn't. And maybe it's you got to prove it to us first. I don't know. I kind of felt like the second half wasn't that. I don't feel like the defensive intensity really fell that much. I just think it was frustration boiling over because the offense couldn't score. And I think they pressed a little bit too much on the defensive side, gave up some easier buckets, some steals that they probably wouldn't. But, here's the way I look at it. I liked that happened. And I know that sounds really weird, but it gives them more to go off of, gives them something to build on, something to learn from. Because if you go out there and you go out and let's just say, they build a 24-point lead, just say they maintain that 24-point lead, you get a little bit ahead of yourself of how good you are. This kind of made them stop and think that, hey, you can't take any time off during a Big Ten game because these teams will come back on you and make you pay for it. So I think it was a good learning experience, and I'm glad that, I hate to say that I'm glad they gave up a 24-point lead almost, but I think it was something that they will definitely learn from, and it will benefit them in the long run.
Well, it was probably good to see how they react to a adversity, prosperity at the beginning and then have adversity at the end. And the fact that they were able to take that and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and just will our way to win, even though we're not playing our best in this half. And they were, they managed to eke out, and I wouldn't say eke out. That's not a good word. They managed to win by 13, but was it 84-71? Was that the final? I don't even have it written down.
74-61.
74-61. That's what it was. 74-61. So, just early tests like this, letting them know what the Big Ten is going to be all about is will do nothing but pay dividends down the road. Yep. When they're in these close games and they know that they can win because they've proven it, that just gives you all the confidence in the world to know that, we might be fighting a little bit right now. We're not playing our best, but when it gets down to the last 2-3 minutes, we can turn it on and pull one out here when we probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
And shooting free throws at an 85% clip, that'll win you a lot of games. You go 22 of 26 from the free throw line, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yep, I agree.
So keep rebounding. I think rebounding is one of the things that Iowa absolutely has to do because they're not that big up front. It is nice to have Cooper Koch in there at 6'8" and have him being able to be, and as athletic as he is and can pull down rebounds. There's a couple times in amongst the trees that I watched him. He went in and just out-muscled everybody and grabbed the ball. And that's what you've got to have, especially for somebody that's a redshirt freshman. Yeah. And, God willing, we'll have him for 3 more years, but nothing's taken for granted at this point. But
yeah, nothing's a given.
Nothing is a given. But so their next game, Iowa's next game, they're 12-2, and they will be going on the road to Minnesota. That would be actually tomorrow night, Tuesday night. And that is a 7:00 game on BTN. Minnesota is 9-5 and 2-1 in the conference, and they did beat Indiana at home. So that was a big win for them. Then after we take down Minnesota up there, then Iowa has to go to has to play Illinois at home, which is a good thing. Playing them at home, I'd rather play them in Iowa City than over there. And they are number 16 rated at this point, and that is an 11 a.m. start on Sunday, and that is on Fox. That's national TV.
Okay. Well,
so
just got to keep the pressure on and the foot on the gas and just keep doing what you're doing. I think good things will happen. One
more thing I want to mention, and it's worth mentioning, is I was impressed by the crowd, how loud the crowd was. There were times in that second half when Iowa was struggling a little bit and was having some troubles, when they were playing defense and that crowd got behind them. And especially when it was that late, like in the last 5 minutes, or maybe it was the last 3 minutes of the game when UCLA couldn't even get a shot off and they had a time clock violation, shot clock violation. That crowd was so loud that even I said, man, I said to the wife, listen to that crowd. This crowd's going nuts. This is exactly what we need. And I know they only sold 12,000 tickets. There are only 12,000 people there. And I know it holds 14?
15.
A little over 4, close to 15.
15.
You get the kids back and you get them jazzed about how this team's going. And this could be a pretty nice home environment.
Yeah, it kind of was reminiscent of some of the 80s home environments that we used to remember, even early 90s. Just that pays dividends for a team, and the amount of crowd support that you have, and I hate to say the dopamine levels that you get injected into you from that as a player.
It just gives you energy.
Yeah, you can't understate that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the home field or the home crowd advantage that you have at Duke. I mean, granted, you've got talent advantages at Duke too, but you look Illinois. Even when Illinois was struggling, they weren't the talented teams that they are now. That building was still sold out, and those crowds were crazy.
Yeah, they don't call them Ammon crazies for nothing.
Or the Orange Crush there,
the Orange Crush,
Izzo at Michigan State.
You can never underestimate.
To get back to.
You can never underestimate what a crowd can do for a team.
And quite honestly,
against the other team,
look at the crowd that Nebraska had against Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
That had to play a factor in that 2-point win.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd have that kind of a crowd. I don't think Nebraska wins that game.
Probably right.
I know that sounds weird, but a home crowd like that is, as McCollum said, is probably worth about 10 points.
Well, I'm not going to deny it. I think that's about true. So. Okay, we want to move over to the women.
Yep.
Yeah, women had a 1-0 week with a win over number 20, then number 20 Nebraska, so 86-76. Iowa stayed at number 14. They did not go up this week. They did not lose any ground there. Iowa was led by Chit-Chat Wright with 24 points. And Hannah Stuelke paced Iowa with a double-double, 10 rebounds, 21 points. And Taylor Stremlow dished out 8 assists. So I thought early on, when Nebraska, especially Britt Prince, that little blonde girl she was on fire. And I thought the first thing I thought was, this is where we miss Kylie Feuerbach. Her defensive prowess, you put her on Britt Prince, I don't think she scores 27 points. I think she scores probably 18. I just don't think, she's good. Don't get me wrong. She is an excellent ball player. Love to have her transfer into Iowa, believe it or not. But I think if you had your best defensive player who is not playing right now because of an ankle, you put her on her, Kylie on Britt. I don't think this game is as close as it ended up. 86-76. Iowa did win. It was close throughout. Iowa pulled away late, just kind of had a little more gas, a little more energy. And that's a partial, we can talk about home crowd again. I thought the crowd was good for Iowa in that game. And that, when you're up against the team and you're back and forth and one, teams trading leads back and forth, it's good at the end that you have that crowd to kind of help get you through that and allow you to turn on the gas at the last, 3 or 4 minutes of the game and kind of push yourself to a victory.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch a ton of that game. I had it on in the background. I was trying to get some stuff done around the house that I needed to get done before I went back to work, after the winter break there. But yeah, it was unreal how unconscious she was in the early stages of that game. Now, as with all things, you tend to go cold. There's always a stretch where you're going to go cold, and she happened to go cold late in the game, and that was kind of a huge difference. I don't know if that was just a matter of getting her legs, she was a little tired, or if the defense tightened up a little bit more. But the shots just weren't falling in the second half, or at least in the fourth quarter, like they were the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, and thank goodness she had 27. I didn't want to see her hit 30. I think if she'd had 30 or 30 plus, we might not be talking about a win. But that was Nebraska's second loss in a row. I think they lost to, was it USC just before that?
Yeah, USC beat them by like 5 or 6 at Nebraska.
At Nebraska, yeah. Well, Iowa shot 49% to Nebraska's 50% from the field. Iowa shot 35% from the three-point line to Nebraska's 30%. Here's the difference. Iowa went 23 of 27 from the free throw line for 82%, while Nebraska, while shooting still very well, shot 80% from the free throw line. Rebounds, Iowa 26, Nebraska 27. Assists, Iowa 20, Nebraska 11. And then turnovers, Iowa 14, Nebraska 16. And most of Nebraska's came in early in the game. I think at one point they had 10 in the first half, and they said this is typically they only get 10 in a game, but they had 10 in the first half. So they did pretty well after that to really tighten things up. I do want to mention Eva Heiden had 18 points and 7 rebounds. You can never understate how important Eva Heiden is to the basketball team. So good for her. Next up at Northwestern in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours from now. On BTN, Northwestern is 6-8, 0-3 in the Big Ten. I don't care where you play this game. Iowa should win this no matter what.
Going away.
Then they are at Indiana on Sunday. And that is a 4 p.m. game on BTN. Indiana is 11-5 overall, but they are 0-4 in the Big Ten and have not played well of late.
No. And I this is not the same Indiana team as we've seen the last few years,
right?
But still, going to Assembly Hall is never a fun time,
right?
It's just a crap building anyway. But going in there with that crowd, they're going to have a good crowd as well. So you still got to play well. You still got to do your thing. And I think Iowa has been tested more at this point. Going to Ames, yeah, they lost at Ames. Going on the road, playing at a neutral site against UConn, yeah, that's a bad loss, but. The neutral games against Baylor just beat Iowa State.
Yeah.
Miami, it's not like Iowa has played chumps.
Yeah. The sisters.
They have. They've had their fair share of gimme games, but they've been tested more too, I think.
Well, you play those gimme games just to see what you have and the players you've got, and what you use those as warm-ups for the Big Ten season. Obviously, that's what they're there for. To learn more about what kind of a team you have, where your weaknesses are, where you need to shore things up, that kind of thing. That's why you play the teams that aren't that great, that the lower division teams. Even I hate to say this, even Drake. I mean, Drake's not having a good year.
No.
UNI's not having a great year. So, I guess you could. I hate to say that because they're Iowa schools, and we root for them when they're not playing for are not playing Iowa. But by the same token, those two schools are not, and they're not playing good basketball this year so far.
Well, and this is where I wish the rules were a little different. Those are great quality games to get players that are probably potential red shirts into to see where they stack up and still allow them to, like in football, you get 4 games and you're still allowed to red shirt. Why is basketball different? Why is it you get into a game for 1 second and you just burned a red shirt? Doesn't make sense.
It didn't used to be like that, wasn't it? You could play a percentage of.
That's games. If you want to get a medical red shirt. That's the way I understand it, is that you can only play a certain amount to get a medical red shirt.
They need to change that rule then and allow the kids to play and, up to a certain amount. Either it's, 6 games, they can play 6 games, or they can play X amount of minutes throughout the season.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's just X amount of minutes.
Yeah. So, because everybody knows how many minutes. You look at the box score, you can see who played how many minutes. That's not like it's a secret until you get to the point where it's, oh, you're over. Sorry, you can't do your red shirt anymore.
Yeah, round it up.
Yeah,
it's not like, well, you played a minute in 12 seconds in this game. Okay, that's rounded down. If it's under a minute 30, it's rounded down. If it's over a minute 30, you round up and say, okay, well, you played minute 35. That's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Now you've only got X amount of minutes to play.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But that what you and I think and what little influence we have on anything doesn't mean anything. So we'll just have to let them figure it out on their own at some point. What do you say we start talking about this? What everybody wants to hear. Talk about the bowl game. Talk about transfer portal. Let's talk about maybe the playoffs a little bit. Let's get that all taken care of.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the bowl game?
I feel like the final score wasn't as close. Was closer than the game really was. I felt like Iowa was pretty much in control throughout. There was a time in there, I think, when he hit that 75-yard bomb on the first play, I was like, yeah, okay, well, but Iowa just responded. And then once I saw that, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see where this is going to go.
Yeah.
I was happy about it. Obviously, as a Hawkeye fan, I'm happy about that win. I'm happy that it was against an SEC team. Happier even more that it was against a Heisman runner-up who ran his mouth a lot, and it was able to kind of, not that he had a bad game, because he certainly didn't.
No,
but
he took his lick.
Iowa was able to say, okay, you got your yardage, but in the end, we still won the game.
You got your yardage, but tomorrow you're going to feel it. You're bruised and you're going to feel it.
And I think it was, there was a lot of bulletin board material that he gave to them ahead of time of, well, it's Iowa. You only have to score 7 points to beat them. Well,
exactly.
Good luck with that, pal.
When the Big Ten comes calling, you ignore those calls, right?
Yep. Probably shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're 10-2 and you did. That's why you're 10-2 and you're sitting at home watching everybody else play in the playoffs.
Sad part of it is from a team aspect, yeah, they acted like an SEC team. From a coaching aspect, absolutely not. I have a lot of respect for that coach. I think he's a heck of a coach, and I think he's humble, which is something you don't see out of an SEC coach, because they're usually arrogant and like, we're the best of everything. So it sucked to have to beat him, but it was good to beat the team, because I thought the team talked a lot, especially that one guy that got stiff-armed out, out on that run by Kamari Moulton, got right up in his face. My first, I jumped out of my chair and I was like, throw a flag on him, shut his mouth up, because that's taunting.
I was concerned that the ref was gonna flag Iowa for hands to the face. On that,
what Kamari did was completely legal from an offensive standpoint.
Well, that's the thing. Why is it legal for an offensive player to put his hands on a face mask, but the defensive player can't?
It's actually legal for the defensive player to do it as long as he doesn't grasp it. But that's usually not what happens, because he's trying to bring the guy down. The offensive player is just trying to keep him away. So you don't see a grab from an offensive player very often.
Well,
You do from a defensive player. And that's why you get that call a lot more on the defensive side than you ever see from an offensive player. Again, if he'd have wrapped his hands, if he'd have grabbed the face mask on that stiff arm, yeah, okay, I would have said, yeah, you probably have a point. But I went back and I've watched it several times, and it's straight out open hand push. There's nothing wrong with it by the rules of football.
Had you ever seen a punter run across the line of scrimmage and punt before? I had never seen it.
No, it's very reminiscent of what Torrey Taylor did a few years back against Wisconsin when he fumbled and he couldn't pick it up and he kicked it off the ground. To me, that should be more legal than what this guy did. That's irrelevant at this point, but it's the same penalty. Yeah. It's an illegal kick, and it's 5 yards from the spot of the foul, loss of down, turnover on downs, basically. Yeah. And I thought, wow, because I even thought to myself when it happened, I'm like, oh, and he's going to kick it. He's past the line of scrimmage. He's way, which he wasn't as far past as I thought he was. Yeah, like 1 yard and a half to 2 yards beyond it. But I thought, he was 5 yards at least. It's like, you got to throw a flag on that. And finally they did. And
first of all, I was screaming that he's going to run down the sidelines. It was 4th and 27. He's going to run down the sidelines and pick this up. Nobody's watching him. I did see an Iowa guy coming across the field, and that's why he forced him to punt it at the 16 and a half. But I was screaming, oh my God, don't get him, cat. Everybody turned their back and he was running down the side. I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to turn out well. But hey, one play later, touchdown.
Turned out better. And that was, oh man, what a catch by Reese Vandersee.
Yeah, 2 really good performances. They gave the MVP to Mark Gronowski, and I guess you could have went that way too.
I can't argue with that.
But by the same token, DJ Vanami, 7 receptions, 146 and a TD.
And huge catches.
51 was that one where he stumbled and ended up getting his balance back and taking off. And if he'd have just angled a little bit, he might have scored on that. But and we ended up not even scoring on that.
If we'd have just the ball on 1st and goal.
Yeah, that's what I said. Run it. Why are we're running the ball pretty well? Why are we trying to throw it in and get cute?
I thought that would have been a perfect time for one of those fake options that Gronowski ends up keeping, like he basically like he did against, I think it was Minnesota.
He'd been doing it all year.
Yeah, it's like it's the perfect time, and then he threw it.
And that's what I thought was going to happen too.
The problem was it wasn't like the play wasn't there. It was there. It just went off his hands.
I think he threw a little too hard, and I don't think that wide receiver would have caught that. Running back, maybe not necessarily would have caught that.
Certainly not your 3rd string running back either.
No. So Kamari Moulton, 14 rushes, 95 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, DJ Vanami, 7 receptions, 146 and a TD. Did you realize that the tight end accounted for 50% of the receptions and 72.16% of the yards passing in that game?
That doesn't surprise me.
Running backs had 1 reception for 2 yards. That's 6% of the receptions and less than 1% of the yards. And wide receivers, 7 receptions for 57 yards. That's 43% of the receptions and 26.8% of the yards. So tight end use strikes again.
And, after watching that again, initially my first thought was, did Seth Anderson not even play? But then I remember seeing him in there.
He was in. I think Jacob Gill, he caught a couple passes, but
Sam Phillips, I don't think caught a pass.
No, I didn't see him catch a pass at all. No, in fact, he's not listed as a catch, as a receiver.
Yeah.
So I hate to see that. I'd like to see those guys go out with at least something in the bowl game, but they got to run their routes and got to get the conditioning in.
It's an experienceable win.
Yeah. So look to the future. Iowa's got some holes to fill. Special teams coordinator, long snapper,
entire special teams.
Yeah, long snapper, holder, kicker, punter, all of it.
Backup punter.
I'm concerned that they're not going to have and although they said there's a kid named Ike Speltz that's out of Van Meter, believe it or not, right up the street here. He's the long snapper. I think they're trying to groom him to be the next long snapper. So hopefully that works out. Otherwise, they're going to have to look for somebody. Special teams concerns me a little bit. I did see we picked up a kicker from North Dakota State in the transfer portal that late yesterday, I think.
Okay. I did not see it.
His name is Ozzy. Oh, hold on here now.
Leo or something like that.
Eli Ozick. And he is a kicker from North Dakota State. He was 19 of 23 in field goals and 66 out of 67 in extra points, and he had 257 kickoffs. He'll have 2 years of eligibility left.
But what's his long?
I know he kicked one over at 54.
Okay.
So at least he's
and I think we're okay with that as far as, him and Caden Burr even.
And, we talked about Caden Burr last spring. We saw him and Drew Stevens in the spring game, and I thought he outkicked Drew Stevens. He was more accurate.
Didn't have the leg,
but he was still hitting from 50.
Yeah.
And I mean, for basically a true freshman to come in out of Bettendorf and say, he's hitting 50-yarders on a consistent basis, I thought we were in good hands. I didn't even think that we were going to need to look at a kicker.
Well, you always have to have a backup kicker because you never know, strained quad, pulled groin, anything like that. And who was it this year that ended up, I don't remember what team it was. They basically ended up having to go for 2 every time because their kicker got hurt and they couldn't kick. Was it Nebraska at one point?
No. I know Iowa State had trouble with their kicker when they got hurt.
Yeah, they ended up having like some offensive lineman kicking for them at one point.
Yeah, so they were having problems. And I know that there was somebody that we watched in a bowl game that really they were like, we can't trust our kicker.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. So you always have to have a good backup anyway.
So let's talk about who we lost and where they went, at least at this point. We lost Restake in the punter.
He has actually officially committed to Michigan State.
Which no surprise at all. He followed LeVar Woods there. LeVar Woods is the one that went to Australia and brought him to Iowa. They have a relationship, and I would understand completely had he left. It's fine. It's, yes, he's a good punter. They'll have a great punter in him at Michigan State. The one that surprised me, Brian Allen.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I'm wondering if somebody didn't get into his head of, hey, you can make a lot of money if you go somewhere else.
I would have thought he would have been basically a starter next year. I wouldn't have thought that it would have been anybody in front of him. He would have been right there, right in the starting lineup.
Either he sees competition that he doesn't think he can beat out in front of him, or somebody waved a paycheck in front of him and said, hey, if you come here, we'll make sure that you're taken well care of. Whether that be somebody out on the West Coast that has a big, deep pockets or somebody else in the conference.
He hasn't committed to anything yet, but he just went in a couple of days ago. Surprised me a little bit. I really thought he would step in and be right there. I don't understand. The only thing would be, like you said, paycheck, somebody saying, hey, maybe Iowa lowballed him and said, we're only going to be able to give you, I don't know, 200,000 or something. And he was looking at somebody else at 400,000 or 500,000. That's hard to pass up when you're basically going to get doubled or whatever. And I'm just speculating what it would be for a defensive lineman. Kale Kolaric jumped into transfer portal, safety, didn't play a lot, little special teams work.
He was probably in line to get some playing time next year.
Yeah. Jazzy and Patterson, we knew that running back room was going to be loaded, and they've got guys coming in too that are, freshmen from high school that they've recruited. And we knew about Jackson Stratton from before. Now
Terrell Washington.
And I had TJ Washington written on here too, but he might, I don't know. It's hard to say with him. He was kind of one of them. Last year they had him in kind of a slot receiver type of deal where he could run reverses and that kind of thing, kind of a utility type player. Mm-hmm. And then this year they moved him right back to running back. And so I'm not sure if they just didn't have a spot for him or they just didn't know where they were wanting to put him. I don't know if he's a stopgap type of guy. Hey, we need somebody over here. We need somebody over there type of thing.
Well, you got to remember he was a starter at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So they saw something that but he just, I don't know if it was just the fact that he either didn't produce to the level they thought or just flat out got beat out by the other guys.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility. I did see we did get some players. Let's go over them real quick. Now these are people that have signed. These are committed people. They're players that are committed to Iowa. We got a safety out of Villanova by the name of Anthony Hawkeyes. He's 6'3", 195 at Villanova as a freshman, 59 tackles.
Freshman All-American.
He was an FCS freshman All-American, yes. He had 59 tackles, 4 for tackles for loss, 2 pickoffs, and he picked Iowa over Kentucky and Wisconsin. He will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Next on the list, we got defensive lineman from Holy Cross named of Bryce Stevenson. He committed. He is a 6'1", 295, 32 games over the 3 seasons he played. He will have just 1 year of eligibility remaining. He had 84 tackles, 6.5 for loss, but only half a sack. So I don't know if that's going to amount to a whole lot. But and we talked about the kicker, Eli Ozick from North Dakota State. He's second team FCS All-American. So those are the 3 right now. Now, there are names on my list here that Iowa has reportedly offered. There is a wide receiver named of Tony Diaz. He's out of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. We have an edge rusher from Elon that is supposedly has a visit scheduled
for the.
Or was he's already here? Yeah. Yes, Kamari Brown is his name from Elon. And now there's also a safety that we're reportedly interested in, the name of Parker Knutson out of Southwest Minnesota State. So
he's also reportedly going to visit Minnesota as well.
That's fine.
That might be.
I'll tell you what, we'll do this. We'll take Coy Parrish out of the transfer.
I know. I don't think, based on what I've heard, I don't know that, talent-wise, we take him, but attitude-wise and
really?
Locker room kid,
really?
He is a me first guy. So basically, he's going to be an Ohio State or an Oregon type of kid.
Gotcha. There is one kid that now apparently Iowa has offered. This is just recent, like in the last 6 hours. There's a kid named of Cade Walford out of Kent State. He's a receiver, 5'10", 195. He is the FBS. Now that would be the bowl series. He is the leader in yards per catch at 26.8 yards per catch. He's received 19 passes for 509 yards and 7 TDs. He's also 12 carries for 96 yards and a TD. He has 3 years remaining. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of big blue bloods after him. So to have Iowa offer, that's good. The one thing I am a little bit concerned about is that there aren't any offers made to anyone from a high Division I level. We're talking about all just lower division level guys here. There's nobody. We're not offering anybody from
Power 4 schools.
Power 4 schools, and do we need to do that for one? And two, why aren't we?
I don't think we can afford them.
Well, we get $20 million for that grant now that everybody's supposed to get X amount of dollars.
But that's not specifically for using for NIL. That's supposed to
I think it is.
Guys that are already on scholarship too.
Well, that is part of it.
So you got to pay those guys too, and you got to keep them. And based on what we've seen, doesn't look like Iowa has lost a ton of guys off into the transfer portal of any. Yeah. I don't want to say of any significance because they're all Hawkeyes, so they're of a significance to me. But you're not talking starter material other than maybe a Brian Allen. So you got to keep those guys. So you got to use that money to keep those guys. So do you really have as much money as, that's where that independent NIL money has to come in. And, I've said in the past, Iowa can't compete with some of these schools. They just don't have the NIL funding.
Did I see it? Now, help me. It may be something you can't always trust the internet. Did I see that Dylan Raiola signed with Northwestern?
I saw that as well, but I don't know if that's true.
How is Northwestern able to do it then?
I don't think that's true.
You don't think that's true? I don't know. I saw it.
I do know that the backup at Notre Dame did sign and commit to Nebraska, though. Minchie?
Yeah. So my question is, if teams like Northwestern and that don't have big donors, and I don't know, maybe Northwestern does, I just don't know that. How can they do it and Iowa can't? Is it just a situation where Kirk Ferentz takes that money, whatever it is, with the NIL and the collective and the swarm and whatever other things that they get money for, and he just says, okay, these are the players on the team that deserve a portion of this money, and here's how we're going to divvy it out, and whatever's left after we decide on what we want to do as far as divvying it out for the team, then whatever's left is what we go after new players with. I'd like to know what that number is, because I'd like to know.
That's the GM.
I'd like to know if after we get done paying our players that are currently on the roster, like you said, I want to know, is it 3 million? Is it 10 million? Is it 4 million? I want to know what it is. That way I can sit back and say, what's it going to take to fill in the holes with higher Division I players? If we're just going to go out after the FBS kids or the FCS kids and fill in with good FCS players, and I get it. Some of those kids are really good, but by and large, there's a reason why that's where they're started out.
Not every case. I mean, you can find those diamonds, and you've got those guys that are at the lower levels because either they're late bloomers, or maybe it was grades, or maybe it was, there just wasn't, they waited too long and there wasn't a spot open for them at their dream school. They'll go to the FCS route for a year and then try to get into that school a year later after they've proven something, or even someplace better. I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question.
Doesn't it disappoint you at all that we're not going after the cast-offs of LSU or the cast-offs of Notre Dame or the kids that transfer that maybe got stuck behind somebody that's an All-American, but they're actually really good. They just didn't see the field because they couldn't get in front of the All-American player, and he's not happy?
Well, yeah, I am disappointed in that, but I also have to stop and think about, are they a cultural cancer to your team? Are they somebody that's going to bring your team down? And I mean, they may be talented in everything, but okay, well, this kid doesn't even go to class, because a lot of those SEC schools, those kids don't go to class. I mean, Miami just kind of opened the door when they said, oh yeah, we practice and we're in the film room from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. When do you go to class? Am I even looking at it too literally? Maybe, I don't know. But if that's the case, when are you going to class? It's kind of that old, practice. We don't have time for practice. Game, class. I didn't come here to do class. I came here to play football.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is do you feel like we are making strides towards making a team that is playoff bound or playoff worthy? That's my question, is if we're going to sit and piddle around with these young players that come from the FCS level, why do you even, I mean, if we're not going to make a push towards getting players that can get to the playoff, what are we doing?
Here's the thing. I think that agents overinflate the value of their players to the point where only certain schools can afford them. So why even make a run at them when you can't even, you're not going to afford him? You've got a kid, maybe, okay, he's sitting behind an All-American. He's a 5-star kid, whatever. Couldn't break through. He's demanding $4 million. Do you spend $4 million on one player when you don't have the funding to do that? That's like going out and saying, okay, I'm going to blow all my savings to pay for this car and still not have enough to actually pay for the car.
Well, I heard a stat, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard a stat that is like 70% of the guys that enter the transfer portal never find a home.
Yeah.
Do you think that those 70% of players that don't find a home would actually say, okay, I'm willing to take less to find a home? I'm willing to take nothing to find a home?
Yes, if they were smart, but They are being controlled by their agent, who is telling them, no, you need to hold out, because the agent wants to get paid too. And if he makes a deal where he doesn't get paid, the agent's like, well, what am I doing this for?
But if the kid goes in and never finds a home, he never plays, they're not getting paid anyway.
He's not getting paid anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the crux of it, is you have agents in their ear telling them, no, you can do better than this. You can do better than this. And then they can't. And then the agent will drop them like a sack of bricks. Oh, yeah, you're not going to make any money for me, so I'm done with you. I think that's a big problem. That's why there needs to be a cap on all players. I don't care if you're Arch Manning and you're going to your third school and you think you're worth $15 million a year. Your cap is $500,000. That's the most a team can pay for you. Again, we get back into the Wild West of, well, they're just going to pay that extra under the table. But I don't know. I don't know the answer to I don't know the answer to that problem, because, money is going to be the detriment of all sports.
It always is.
Always
money is the root of all evil, and it just there's no other two ways around it. That's just the way it is. Now, I'd like to see something like, each Power 4 Division I level school gets $25 million as part of this deal that we get. And you are allowed only to spend that $25 million. You spend it however you want. Existing players, new players, however you want to divvy that out. Salary cap. That's what you get, $25 million. Now, then at that point, you can divvy that out. If you say, okay, each quarterback, your starting quarterback gets $500K. Your starting running back gets $400K. And then you just divide it down to the point where at the end of the day, you can't go over 25 million.
But that's just, you're talking 25 million for one sport.
Right.
Is that revenue sharing for all sports?
Well, that's the thing. Obviously basketball being a sport where you use a whole lot less players. You talk about 85 to 100 players on a football team versus 15 on a basketball team versus maybe 28 on a baseball team, whatever the cap is to have on scholarship. That's where you have to divide that down and say, okay, well, if my football TV revenue is 25 million per school, then in basketball, it's 15 million or 13 million or 10 or whatever it ends up being. Then that's what you're allowed.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but.
And it should be commensurate to the level of money brought in, because obviously the football is going to bring in the most, the basketball is going to bring in second most. And at Iowa, wrestling may bring in the third most above.
Well, women's basketball probably brings in the third most at this point.
Whatever. Yeah.
But again, you're going back to the same old problem of, okay, you're putting a cap on it. You're telling them you can only spend this much. Then you just got the stuff happening under the table again.
Well, but there'll have to be some sort of a rules person who monitors that is independent.
Independent from the NCAA? I totally
agree. Yeah, independent from the NCAA, but I mean independent from the
university.
Yeah, somebody that doesn't have a bias or could be bought.
A conference auditor.
Yeah. And if you're, if you're giving 500,000 to the Manning kid, and he can show you his bank account showing the 500, but then also the other $1.5 million, where does that come from?
The Lamborghini he's driving and all that stuff.
Tell me where this money's coming from.
Yeah.
And if you can't provide that information to me, then I assume then that this is ill-gotten and that you've broken the rules, and therefore you are automatically suspended for 1 year.
You are suspended pending an investigation of where that money came from. So you can either tell us right away so you can try to avoid that suspension, or you let it drag out. And as long as it takes for that investigation to happen, you can't play.
You got one opportunity. You tell us where that money came from and you give that money back, and it's one strike and you're fine. If you show, if that happens again, there is no second strike. You're going right to the third strike and you're out.
Yeah. Well, that would be in the ideal world, and that's what should have been happening over the last 30 years.
And, you know, there'll be lawsuits up the yin-yang that they're restricting their amount of money that they can make. And it's just, it's silly. There's got to be rules, and rules will have to be followed. And until you have that, it's never going to be, it's always going to be the rich getting rich and the poor getting poorer.
Yep. So
I'm not saying I'm not saying this has got to be socialist, but you got to try to keep it at least somewhat fair for everybody.
Yeah. If you're going to allow for an unlimited cap, then you better create a second league. Here's the teams that can compete in this league, and here's the teams that compete in this league, because you're not going to be a mid-tier money-making team that's going to compete against, you know, the Ohio States, the Alabamas of the world, because they unlimited pockets.
Are you surprised at all at the amount of? I'll use Iowa State for an example. Iowa State lost their coach, went to Penn State, Matt Campbell. Are you surprised at all at the amount of players that went from Iowa State to Penn State? When they hit the transfer portal, are you surprised that some other school didn't see their potential and say, I'd really like to see them come to this university. Let's go offer them money to come to this school. But the majority of them have gone and said, I want to play for Matt Campbell. And they went to from Iowa State to Penn State. Didn't even look anywhere else. They just said, that's where I'm going. I'm following my coach. That surprises me that happens still. There's still a little bit of loyalty. Now, I'm sure they're getting paid a little bit. Penn State probably has a deeper pockets than Iowa State, and so they're actually probably getting a bump.
Has deeper pockets than Iowa State.
They're going from, each kid gets $65,000 to play to, each kid now gets $130,000. So they're doubling what they're just to go there and play.
Yeah.
Some kids obviously get more. Rocco Beck probably get more, and Carson Hansen will probably get more, and Burkle and all those other tight ends, they'll probably get more. But, I was a little surprised at how many actually just said, I'm just going straight to Penn State. Not even gonna look around.
Honestly, I'm surprised that there's not been as many defections from Penn State yet with that happening.
There's been a few. There were a few that followed Franklin down to Virginia Tech, and I know there's a couple that are still in the portal that haven't been picked up yet. So, there's a lot there. It's funny how many players hit that portal. Some of them have the opportunity to come back, which is fine. I think Brian Allen still has the opportunity to come back if he doesn't find what he's looking for. And I just hope that coach doesn't say, okay, well, you left, so now all of a sudden you're banished from this facility and you can no longer come back. I hope it never goes that way. I hope it's like, well, if you want to test the waters, okay, that's fine. If you don't find what you're looking for, let us know. We may still have a spot for you. And,
I think you do have to keep them from the facilities. And once they enter the transfer portal, they're no longer on your team.
Well, no, I agree with that. I'm just saying that there's an opportunity if he doesn't find a home with somebody that's
you can welcome them back.
Knows the system. You could bring them back. I mean, there's been players that have come back.
I would honestly be a little bit shocked if I don't see him at Michigan State too.
Yeah,
I just
see.
Yeah,
I hate to see that because
anyway, we could talk this to death on transfer portal and how to fix it, and there's just no easy way to fix it at this point. Let's leave the playoff talk to next week, because we'll have a little bit clearer picture of who's going to be playing in the championship game next week, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about the demise of the SEC. I think their only wins are against themselves.
I'm going to predict Indiana and Miami.
Yeah,
I think Indiana gets it done again against Oregon.
I wouldn't be surprised. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Oregon won too. I mean, at this point, it's hard to beat a team twice.
Oh.
But I don't know. And I think either one of those two teams are far and away better than what's left on the other side of the bracket.
It's
that they have to play each other.
It's too bad when Ohio State lost to Miami, that eliminated the idea of having 2 Big Ten teams in the championship game. That's too bad.
Because that would have really stuck in the craw of some SEC people.
Oh yeah. Whew. Oh yeah.
I think we save that for next week.
Okay. Even though they play, what is it, Friday?
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday?
The semifinals will be Friday. We'll be able to talk about that and what the actual matchup is for the national championship game at that point.
Yeah.
We'll be able to spend a little bit more time on that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. Well, I know you had some things you need to get done. So,
yep. Let's wrap it up and head back at it next week. As always, thanks for listening and watching us, I guess. Thanks for the viewership and the loyalty. Appreciate it. Keep the comments coming, even though I don't ever read them at this point.
I do.
It's an FYI. You read them and tell me if I need to read them or anything, but I just don't have time right now to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But appreciate the listenership. Always catch us on our other medium, Spotify. Catch us on our social media as well. Just really appreciate everybody's listenership and keeping us going throughout this. And we'll get full swing into basketball here before long, and shows will probably get a little bit shorter with that happening.
Yeah, probably.
So, but with that, we'll get out of here on a Go Hawks, and we'll catch you next week.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.